On, but weekly for Catch. And like you mentioned, it is the time for Western Spectrum within a Good Morning Kenya show. It is a chilly morning from the lakeside city of Kisumu, but regardless, we'll move on. My name is Weekly for Catch, and it is now time for Western Spectrum. And like my colleague Victor has mentioned, we want to talk about innovation in waste management. How waste is managed digitally? How can that be done? And the right person, the person to help us carry that conversation forward is none other than Benson Abila. Benson Abila is the co-founder and the chief executive officer of Mtaka Waste Solutions. And just straight on, Benson, good morning.
Morning. It's a chilly morning.
It is a chilly morning in Kisumu.
It's very chilly. I actually got tired of the heat.
Sorry for that. Anyway, we keep moving on and we keep building the country.
Yeah.
Yes. People are wondering, even as you say hello to our viewers in just a minute, people, our viewers could be asking, how is waste managed digitally? What is it? Say hello to our viewers first.
Good morning. My name is Benson Abila. I'm co-founder and CEO of Mtaka. And as Wycliffe has mentioned, we are pioneering one of the, I think it's Africa's largest waste technology platform in its entirety. It's called Mtaka. And ideally, when you talk about innovation or technology in waste management, it just means that we are trying to bring technology and digital tools in the simplest manner possible in an informal sector. So all the way from a mobile phone recording your data to getting access to a market through a marketplace to getting access to credit. You know that people in the informal sector cannot even go walk into a bank and get a loan, right? So we're trying to use technology to empower them and ensure that they can compete in the market as like any other businesses.
So you track waste and manage waste using the phone.
Yeah, so of course, Mtaka, we've had a lot of versions, and I think one of the beautiful components early on in our days that we had a public-private partnership with Kisumu County to just show how a model MRF can be optimized, the success using technology, right? But as a company, our heart or at core is that we look at the data, the day-to-day data in a business, right? And we record it. You know, once you record data from a book to a phone, it becomes useful information. That data can help the business person make decisions. That data can help the business person know where the market is. That data can help the business person really understand in its entirety, you know, how or when can I qualify for a loan. So I'd say technology catalyzes or accelerates and makes waste management more efficient, because you can do your business better, you can know where people are better, you can map the hotspots, you can manage your clients, so everything, you know, away from it. But I'll speak towards the end about the hardware innovations that also makes, you know, sort of waste management as innovative and as efficient as possible. Yeah.
Quite a number of times I've heard about the concept of circular economy, and I'm told no waste is waste.
Yes.
Tell us about
value. Waste is wealth. In this region, we normally say taka ni pesa. And then what that basically means is that everything that you see, you know, we're moving from a linear economy where, you know, you use, you take and dump, you know, to circular economy where there is the component of reuse and a product can have another life. For example, if you buy a bottle of water, right, and it's with the Coca-Cola brand or Dasani, for example, and you drink it, you know that bottle becomes now a raw material for the next person. It can be taken, it can be crushed, can be used to make another material, right? Similar to organic waste, can be used, you know, with BSF technology to make protein or make organic manure, and that then means that nothing should go to waste. So the vision has always been with circular economy, you move towards a zero waste agenda where everything is valuable and nothing goes to the landfill. But of course, we can talk about the dynamics of what goes and the other things that remains, what could then be done to them. Yeah.
Giving life to a waste product, yes, and this is done digitally. Take us step by step, because you mentioned that the MRF. For me, I would understand the MRF, but then for the sake of viewer, you may want to take us step by step how waste is collected from the household, tracked using the mobile phone, and then finally taken to where it can be given another life.
I agree. I think I'll say it in the simplified manner. So a lot of waste is generated, and waste generated mostly from the household, right? So once you buy bread or milk, you take your breakfast, it goes into the bin, right? Someone comes and picks it, who is a waste collector, right? But when they pick it, normally people mix it, so it becomes very difficult to separate, you know, the valuable ones and they mix with organic. But if you are ideally separating, it means that this individual would come, take the dry waste, take them to a facility. So we call them an aggregation facility, where as a waste actor, they can get money out of their own waste. So you can, sell plastics for 20 shillings, and it can even go higher, right? So they're able to take it. Then organic waste also take it to a facility. So MRF is ideally a material recovery facility. The concept of recovering, it means that we are taking this thing from where it was at the source and trying to convert it into valuable raw material for the next process. So what our technology does is that we're able to help the waste actors themselves manage the households, manage the clients, know when to pick the material, right? And even once they pick the material, right, they would know which client has paid, which one has not paid, or something like that. But then once they go to that facility, the manager of that facility also has clear visibility of what's coming in, what is my purchase, what is my inventory, right? What is there in stock? And then before they even struggle to say, what am I going to do with this material? They know the market. They can go to the market. But as you run a business, let's say in a year, you need to allow your data to work for you. Then now the data converts into meaningful resource. So what I'd say is that technology streamlines the recovery of materials from source to factory with visibility. Because there's a concept called traceability, where when you're using a product, you'd like to know, where did it come from, right? Where was it recovered? Who was the waste actor who was involved? Yeah? What were they doing? And our technology brings visibility to that, because AI, blockchain, and every other thing is integrated in a simple manner on a mobile phone. Yeah.
You mentioned waste actors. I really want to know who waste actors are. And we must not forget there is a summit that is going on in Kenya, and this is a summit that brings together Africa and France, and it is called Africa Forward Summit. And we'll just right on your screen, on the split screen, you're seeing some of the events going on at the University of Nairobi, where the event, or rather the summit, will kick off today, and it will carry on to tomorrow. So even as we continue this discussion, or rather this conversation from the lakeside city of Kisumu, well on your screen is some of the events as they unfold at the University of Nairobi with regards to the ongoing Africa Forward Summit that is bringing together heads of state in Africa and the French nation that is in Europe. And you already know that some of the heads arrived in the country yesterday, and also even the French president, that is Emmanuel Macron, also arrived in the country just in readiness for the summit that will kick off today in just a few moments. Well, coming back to Kisumu, as we continue this conversation on waste management digitally, waste actors, who are these?
Of course, waste actors is the general term that you refer to anyone who is involved with waste, right? So I'd say a waste actor, like an actor. Who is an actor? Someone who takes action, someone who does the heavy lifting. So a waste actor is a practitioner, someone who on a day-to-day turns to waste as a source of livelihood, or tries to improve how waste is generally managed. So we have different levels. So we'd have a waste picker. Mostly people look at them like people who don't belong, people who, they're undignified in their nature, right? But they actually are 60% of the workforce that, does the recovery. So you have a waste picker, then you'd have, let's say, a waste collector, someone who collects waste from the household, to the facility, and then you'd have, let's say, an aggregator, someone who now buys it, and then, they can add value to it and process it. Then you have a recycler. A recycler is now someone who now, if you give me a bottle, and then I'm able to turn it into another bottle, or you give me a bottle, I turn it into, let's say, another plastic product, then I am a recycler, right? I give it another new form. So those are the different cadres and levels of waste actors, but then there are practitioners around that also accelerate the success of the different levels in the value chain.
So there is a clear value chain as to where...
Before we got into waste, I was lucky that I did my undergrad in civil engineering. Although my background, I grew up in informal settlements in Manyata here, around poverty and struggle, and waste was around us.
So you know how waste is just...
Oh my God, I know what it means, but I lost my father at an early age, and I actually went to an orphanage. And so I know what it means to lack, struggle, and be discriminated. And what that means is that when I finished my undergrad, I decided to come back to volunteer, and I realized that these young people, right, that were already struggling in informal settlements were also being discriminated for trying to turn to waste as a source of livelihood. And that didn't sit right with me. Because, back then, kachok, or not kachok, it was actually called katos, right? It was so normal. You go pick this metal, you go away. No, judge. Yeah, that's now been moved to Kasese. But now, all of a sudden, if you do waste, you're being judged. So that's why Mtaka started 5 years ago, to dignify waste work and allow every other young person to say, I can turn to waste as a source of income and thrive. Yeah.
Kisumu, there is a wide saying out there that Kisumu is one of the cleanest cities in Kenya. I need to commend actually for the good work that my friend Abala Wanga, the city manager, is doing. And I know he's not doing that alone. Mtaka is right into this. And I know it's just not Mtaka. Mtaka is not just having partnership with Kisumu, even Vega the other time. Tell us about the partnerships.
But let me just try from a broader spectrum. You know, Mtaka, we've been lucky to scale nationally. You know, as I speak now, we're in over 8 counties. That'll be surprising, right? And yes, we're in 8 counties, and that means our technology has scaled. So we have over 130 facilities that are now using our platform, right? We have MOUs actually we have an MOU with Kisumu, we have one with Vega, and we are trying to get MOUs with the other counties. The other day I was in Mombasa, the other day I was in Kakuma. So we're trying to see how then do we scale this. But the level of partnership that we have is that we try to partner with these municipalities or with the counties or city on a smart city agenda, on a smart municipality agenda. How can they leverage the data from the recovery, the data from the generation to make better decisions? Did you know, Wycliffe, that circular economy is worth about $54 billion? Right? That means that's a lot of jobs for young people. That's a lot of opportunity, even for the government themselves. But they are unable to invest in it because they don't have visibility. They don't know the value of waste, where it's coming from, how it can be converted. They have ideas. But what we come in as Mtaka is to make those ideas real into an interactive dashboard and allow them to say, as the governor of this and this, or as a city manager, Balawanga, I am going to commit this amount of money. The same way Kisumu has built over 6 facilities in Kisumu because they had visibility into this is the waste and this is how we can turn it into value and jobs for young people. Yeah.
I want to ask you a question that is very specific because when you walk around this stage, Kisumu stage, just behind that stage, between stage and the United Mall, there is a waste recovery facility, but then you find it so scattered and littered all over. How your partnership with Kisumu, how does it work? Because we can still see waste around.
Oh, interestingly enough, that facility you're mentioning is called Maendeleo Recovery Facility. That actually we've done a lot of partnership with the county and the city on. But to surprise you, that waste is no longer there. You know, it was evacuated, that place is now clean, and then there's not a lot of chaos that area. But what was happening was that because the county normally have something called a transfer station where they place some skips for the public to come and you know, you put in your material, then the county will pick it and take it to the dump site. But some people misuse it. So because the stage is a high generation area of waste, people were now not handling it the right way. So I think the city came in, there was an intervention, we were able to do some cleanups to educate the community there and tell them this is not the right way to do it. So right now, it's well and good, but if you walk into Maendeleo Recovery Facility, you will see the way it comes in, the way it is crushed, the way it is sold, the way jobs are created, the way that place is clean, and then you're able to have a different narrative and say, kumbe, taka ni pesa. Taka ni pesa. Yeah.
How does the community respond to this idea of circular economy such that there's no waste, everything can be converted into something useful?
Community can drive a hard bargain. Because the community, that's an element of behavior change, you know, and years back, even if you go into a decade ago, people didn't really know that waste is wealth. So I'd say early when we started, the community was a bit resistant, but now they're very open, right? And I normally say this, even in your household right now, I'm sure you have some plastic bottles and some things, some box, some carton somewhere. If I come and tell you that this is value, or if I come and tell you, you know, you should dispose it the right way, you look at me, okay, what are you talking about? But if I tell you, you know, this and this and this is money, this is 50 bob, this is 100, this is 200 bob, you're like, where can I get it? You know, madam, can you go and, you know, go pick that money and let's buy some bread. So the community, there's an approach of incentivization to help them see this is value and they can also partake in earning that value. But what's interesting is that the policies themselves, you look at Kenya, there is the Sustainable Waste Management Act of 2022 that encourages and says that your waste is your responsibility, right? In fact, if you don't separate your waste at source, there's a fine, right? Yeah, and that means that everyone is now being nudged with the public authorities, with the community actors, with the waste actors to partake in the process. So we just hope that the community can do better, because if they separate the waste at source, that means that the waste that goes to the facility is cleaner, and the waste picker is able to earn more, the waste actors can earn more, and you can build a circular economy within your municipality or county. Yeah.
You've been in this space for a long time, and you mentioned about the act. Are Kenyans even aware of this act, and even do they even adhere to it?
I think being a Kenyan myself, I know the challenges that happens when it comes to laws and then be implemented. You remember the plastic ban that was done, I think 2019 or thereabouts, and all of a sudden people were able to listen to that ban, but not because it was a ban, and not because sometimes they understood to the end, but because there was enforcement. If you were caught, right, there was a hefty fine and a jail term. Similar things are in the Sustainable Waste Management Act, where the public could be, exposed to such consequences. So I'd say people may not be fully aware. There's a lot of sensitization being done. NEMA has done them, actors have done them, PROs have done them. We have done them as Mtaka, but more could be done. So my take is if we can also strengthen enforcement, people know that this waste is just no longer about me being nudged to handle the right way, but it's a responsibility. And if I do not take that responsibility, there are consequences. That's why you see Abala Wanga running all the time, telling people this is wrong, this is right, do this, do that. And you see the director for Kisumu, Director Ben, even Director Viga, Director Quilla. You can see how there's a lot of intention to let the public know that if you don't do this, these are the consequences. Because that is the only way you reach people at mass. Yeah, education sometimes, they say the carrot and the stick. Yeah, it does not work fully.
You mentioned something to do with my waste being my responsibility and separation of waste at the source. Expand that further.
So I told you about the value chain, and I told you about how it works in terms of how someone is able to make a business out of it, right? So if for a facility to recover even half a ton a year, for example, or 500 kilograms, let's say a good quantity in a year, 500 tons, right? They would have to get it from a source. So what happens is that normally in the house, people mix. Maji ya ugali unamwaga hapo ndani, chupa unaweka hapo ndani, nini unaweka hapo ndani. Sasa ule jamaa akikuja kuchukua takataka, when they come collect it, they are struggling to recover. Yeah, so most of it end up going to the dump site or the landfill because it's unrecoverable. But if you separate it at source, huyu jamaa na kazi rahisi, anachukua organic anapeleka pale, inaweza kuwa chakula nguruwe, inaweza kuwa itumike na BSF because there are other technologies as well, right, that convert it into valuable materials. Anachukua hii dry, anapeleka pale maendeleo ama popote kupe pale, ana pesa. So segregation at source is a necessity, and it is in the law. Separate, because when you separate, you make the work of the value chain easier. So that hii maneno ya sijui taka ni chafu, sijui taka is an ISO, it moves away, because hata wewe mwenyewe kwa nyumba yako ni handle, na maana hata ukiangalia unasema baba hebu chukua weka huko nje. Not like wacha jamaa kuja chukue peke yake, because you don't even want to interact with it. Yet you are the one who caused the chaos around the waste itself.
You call it chaos.
You're
very right, because the other day when I was at Nyalenda, in Nyalenda, the slums just next to us here, and the Amazing Grace Center. And so a middle-aged lady brings some materials there, then they are weighed, and then she's paid.
You know that people are able to earn from waste. You know, there's this idea of wanasemanga white collar. Unavaa vizuri, unaingia kwa ofisi, I'm doing a job, and you think that, this job is great. No, I'm not fighting us. I'm also in between white collar and blue collar. But the guys who handle waste, you'll be surprised that if I do my recovery right, I could earn quite a good amount of money. Do you know that even the guys who, let's say, when they collect the waste, right, and you've paid the truck collection company, once they separate it further, they can go and earn additional income from it. Right? And that means that there's a lot of opportunities in waste. And the reason why we say that even the community and the household need to know about it, because if a young mother knows about it, right, then they can walk themselves and take it and earn money themselves, right? But if they do not do it, then the waste pickers come in, because they have to come and scavenge and also, figure out where to get that material. So it's possible. Amazing Grace are doing great work. Shout out to Renice and Meshach, for the wonderful work they're doing. We work together greatly, and I know that it is such community initiatives that are at the first step of increasing recovery. Because if there's no one in the community running a buyback center or a waste collection thing, where will you find this waste? So you'll find it kanda barabara hapo. Then you start making noise and say the government is not doing their job. The governor has a strong commitment to clean city. If he passes, it feels like someone is not doing their job right. Yet it is the community member mwenye usiku alienda kaidump the wrong way. Yeah.
Just on the back of that illustration that I've given regarding that mama who brought some material there and earned something. Yes. So Mtaka, generally, yes, what do you assess as the economic impact of it?
Wow. As Mtaka, I'd say we have largely currently led to an increase in over 3 times the income of the actors themselves.
How many do you work with?
So I think in our network, we have over 3,000, we'd say, users, right? So that waste pickers that come to facilities, guys that are at these facilities, waste collectors, yeah? But in Kisumu, largely, we have a network of about 500 thereabout, yeah, to 600 that we've actually trained. So once you're trained, you're told, Taka ni pesa, this is how you can manage a business. The next step is you're given gears. So over here, you're branded your company, we sometimes co-branded them, Mtaka and partners and supporters. And then the next step is you give them some seed capital, some 5K, 10K, up there to 50,000. Then they're able to start out. They're able to say, can I buy this waste and make income out of it? So through this, we've seen that a lot of youth and women are able to actually earn better. Because when you introduce technology, then we change the game. How? If you're just running your business like just a regular person na kuganda barabara na anafanya biashara yake, ni ngumu sana ujamaa grow from that level to level. Let's say A, B, C, D. But when you introduce technology now you've started someone with a catalytic fund, it means that the data goes back to the record keeping I was telling you about. The data that they have on a day-to-day can go to a manner that as much as they know who to sell to, right? They know what they're doing, but then they are ready. The bank can now come and say, Equity Bank can come and say, we want to give you money. Then let's say, then they walk to the bank, they tell the bank, I want some money. The bank will ask them, can I see your records? They can download a report from the Mtaka platform, our integrated circularity platform, and that can be able to help them even get access.
So it has empowered them.
Oh, tremendous. You know, by the way, we are scaling. We're not just based in Kenya alone. I told you when I started, I'd say our goal is to become Africa's largest waste and even circular tech company. So currently we're in Kenya, we want to scale to Zimbabwe, so we should go into Zimbabwe before the end of the year, and Kampala. But our goal is not to stay there. We want to become an East African and largely then an African-based company, right? Because then only at scale, data at scale, market at scale, empowerment at scale is what then makes sense to really show the circular economy can empower lives the way we want to do. Yeah.
About 500 in Kisumu and generally 3,000. What is the composition of your membership?
Because you see, we partner with the waste actors. We support their success. And in our work, we've had a lot of partners that have worked with us the journey. A lot of them, I couldn't be able to mention all of them. I mean, from EU, funded, GIZ, Embassy, all these guys, KCIC, and everyone else that have supported us. And you see that what we notice is that most of the intervention have been towards women. So over 60% of the people that we work with have been women. And you see the way women become more confident, they're able to participate safely and better in the sector. They're able to say, I'm able to earn something, I am respected, I can make a living, I can go back home with something, and that gives us the joy. So I'd say most of the people we really work with are women, but also the youth and the men are not left out. And where youth, also women are there, but the men are also not left out because the men are the primary. If you look at the sector, there's actually a lot more men than women generally in the sector because of the nature of the work that goes into waste management. Yeah.
So Taka ni pesa imeokolea watu sana.
Sana.
Other than economically, environmentally, what do you assess as the impact?
And you talk about when waste is not handled the right way, there's a lot of CO2 emissions that come from the mismanagement. As Mtaka, from our platform, you can already track over 3,300 tons, right? Which is over 9,000 metric tons of CO2 avoided, right? But that's just us. But every other actor, if you're able to assess, the better we manage the waste, the safer we are helping the environment. Waste disposed the wrong way leads to a lot of diseases, right? I mean, I told you I lived in the slums. You could see, you can be exposed to cholera, nini, hata ukienda ukadungwa na kitu, inakuwa mbaya sana. Lakini ukimanage waste vizuri, means to avoid diseases, you've lead a lot of environmental health and safety, hata ile kunuka. Unasema taka sometimes inanuka, utaki kusikia harufu, si ndio? If you manage it well, haitanuka kwa sababu itakuwa inapangwa vizuri, inakuwa recovered vizuri, inapelekwa pahala pazuri. So the health benefits are there in terms of environmental impact, but also the environmental impact at scale. It means that we are saving, you know, when there's global warming, and then the ozone layer, and then there's climate change, right? And then climate change, you see the way now things are happening, there's flooding all over the city. You saw Nairobi the other day, Nairobi flood, and sometimes even this waste, ikimanajiwa vibaya, in a block drain, maji inakuja. So instead of water getting its, there's a lot of rains, instead of water getting natural path, umeblock na takataka, inakuja ina flood. Then people start saying, oh, serikali saidia, oh, we need help. Yet it is you who would have contributed. So the environmental impacts in terms of better managing the waste is vast. And we can only get there if you work together as a community and you understand that your waste is your responsibility.
Working together as the community, and this boils down to waste separation at the source. But then, Benson, let us look at this practically. If you want to separate waste at the source to improve, or rather to comply with the act, that means you will require more than, quite a number of bins. Do economic muscle.
And I love how you brought it out, and I think this is one of the things that people should talk about a bit more. Of course, the truth is that separation is not very easy. And NEMA put out a regulation and said, this is how, this was an instruction to show how this is how you're supposed to separate. There was a black bin, green bin, and the blue one, and I think the black had general, blue had recyclables, and then the green had organic, and then there was that depiction already in terms of the bins. And not everyone can get there. Not everyone has the capacity to do that. But me, I normally say, even in the most basic form, chakula organic iko na maji, weka kando. Hata kama ni kwa ndoo, weka kando. Anything dry, weka kando. Because wewe mwenyewe, hiyo dry ukiweka vizuri kwa gunia hata kwa wiki mbili, utapata pesa kwa hiyo maneno. Because when you pay for waste collection from a range of 50, 200, even 1,000 bob, and you're able to sell that, your dry waste in gunia, so utapata that money back. And even you can try and trade with the guy coming to collect from you. Naambia hebu nipimie mali nataka nilipe. You see? Then he organic, I'm sure if they collect it and they even have someone who they can take it maybe kwa nguruwe ama kwa organic waste, it becomes easy. So I normally say separation of waste isikuwe ni kama ni kizungumkuti. Ikuwe ni big science ya segregation. Ni wewe tu kujua hata kwa nyumba tu. Niweke hii kando, niweke hii kando. Ndipo sasa ule mwingine ambaye anakuja after me kuichukua kama raw material, anakuwa na kazi rahisi. Afanye kazi anafeel ni kama hii nyumba kwani mnakulanga nini? Ndio akifungua tu hivi, labda mlikula samaki ama mlikula chakula mzuri sana. So I don't know if I'm able to break it down in a simple manner, but it is not complicated. It is just initiative and understanding someone else is coming to pick this to make money out of it.
I like how you used in that word, deposit. People make fun of it. Yes. But how do we ensure sustainability in waste management in terms of environmental impact? How do we just ensure that whatever we do, it lasts longer?
Two angles. Sustainability, the first angle, and this is what I love to do and what I love to talk about, partnerships. No one can do anything alone, right? Because, for example, if you look at how Mtaka started, we started with a model, we went to the community, we were trying to make it work, right? And at some point we got partners, we got funding, we got support. And right now, if you look at even how we're scaling with partners. You look at people like Practical Action, Danish Refugee Council, VSO International, we are scaling with partners, right? The government in itself has the resources. You want to work with the government to leverage its infrastructure. So if you're moving alone, you cannot do much. But if there's that partnership, the waste actors, the private sector who have investment, the actor themselves, there's a lot of progress. But the other thing that I think I will even leave the watchers with, the viewers with, is that one of the ways to make waste management better in a sustainable manner is investment. That's no other thing, investment. Money has to come in, Wycliffe. If this is an economy, right? Unasikianga agriculture ni economy, ndio? Mining is an economy. Waste is an economy. Circular economy is an economy. People have to come and put money. If we need infrastructure, if we need a facility where the waste comes and is processed, money has to be put in. A private investor will bring that money. The government itself can invest their money and put up that structure, and business themselves can also work to the bank and finance us to get that money. But then the sad truth is that the way the sector is set up, it is informal. Most informal actors don't get access to support. They don't have the confidence of the government to give them all these things. They don't have the right data to be able to do this. That's why Mtaka is coming in. In fact, I say at scale, one of the biggest success metrics is that we will have used data to help actors grow from a level A to level C, because that data can now be used to credit score them so they can get money to grow and invest further. That for me is sustainability, honestly, at scale. Yeah.
All right. Fine. Like I'll keep reminding you, those scenes you're seeing on the split screen, on the split side of your screen, there are some live images from the ongoing summit that is set to kickstart today, actually, from the University of Nairobi. That is the Africa Forward Summit, the summit that brings together African nations and France as they chart the way forward in terms of development. And Benson, regarding this summit that kicks off today, I'm so sure innovation is part of the discussion that is going will go in there. How our conversation this morning, how does it relate to this summit?
I'd say innovation. So there's simple, basic, local innovation. The way you see people using BSF, you see. We have, let's say, we have a digital technology that's able to transform things, but also there's always advanced level of innovations where there's like machinery and robotics and all these things. Yes. Environmental conservation. Yes. So you can see, for example, you walk into advanced facility and you could see that even the way they're processing, there's some robotics and there's AI image scanning and innovation at big scale. But what I normally say, all these innovations, whether international, whether it's complex, can be simplified in a local context. And there has to be innovators who are ready to learn and adapt, but also ready to promote what's happening locally. So if you look at, for example, the conference, you'll see that there will be a lot of innovations, let's say, from France. What's happening, right? Best case scenario, what we could learn and what we could then implement. And even if you look at France themselves, there's a lot of commitments. There's something called extended producer responsibility. France has one of the strongest motive, and being that they're part of the EU has a strong commitment to circular economy, right? So one of the things we could learn is how best are they doing it, and how could we bring it to accelerate the success of our sector, right? Remember, in terms of independence, Kenya is 60-something years old, right? We're just getting there. So we're still a young nation. In terms of innovation, we could borrow, adapt, and see what works. But even what we have locally, the goal would be, are there investors from France? Are there people in that summit? Are there practitioners? Are there people who are willing to say, there's this unique or innovative African company, Mtaka, or any other company that we want to work with to ensure that we bring our innovation, or also learn from them and bridge the gap between the Africa and France market, trade, and everything. Yes.
The concept of traceability is something that I know will feature in there. And also, apart summits like this one, just the other day we had is it ASCA?
Yes.
In Kisumu.
Yes.
How did this impact your scope and going forward? How does what does it mean for waste management?
The Smart City Summit, one of the landmarks for us that we're able to then finalize that MOU with the city, about the Smart City agenda. So we were part and parcel of, I think we had a breakfast with the governor and we had the conversation around what could we do better. And I think the goal was to demonstrate that sometimes innovation and the city being smart, it doesn't really have to start from outside or someone saying, let's bring in this. The local innovations are already there that are doing the work that could just be amplified. So I'd say that the fact that Kisumu even hosted that conversation, it's the commitment. You see every day, and I think I'm a very big fan of following both the city's page and the county's page, and we look at what the government is doing. There's a lot of collaboration with bilateral states, with other states, and seeing that what can we learn from China, what can we learn from the UK, what can we learn from America. And this is the kind of conversation that catalyzes growth. Because Kisumu was named among top 20 cleanest cities by the UN. There's a UN Habitat sort of ranking that then put, the UN agency put that Kisumu on the map. But Kisumu didn't just get there accidentally. It got there by being very intentional. By the leadership saying, we want to be the first, if not the first, we want to be the most progressive in this agenda. So that Smart City Summit, personally for me, being that I'm from Kisumu, born and bred here, and innovation started here, speaking on that panel, sharing what we're doing, for me was a milestone to indicate that there is a level of commitment from the government to accelerate public-private partnership to scale the work that we're doing. So I know it's a lot of words, but it's just to say it was good for us, very successful. And I think since then, we even developing smart city dashboards for the city themselves, so they can see how waste is recovered, and they can use that to attract more investment to grow the sector and unlock its potential. Yeah.
So investment in the sector is very critical.
Well, I mean, Wycliffe, this is my 5th year in this sector. I have had a bit more experience growing up. I'd say growing up I was a waste picker myself because I know exactly what it means. But tell me, once I'm 10 years in or more, in terms of my experience, what is that one thing that I will look back and say, this happened? Of course, the metric for me is that waste will have been dignified. It will be seen as a source of income. But what will truly matter? Kenya is a middle-income country. Kenya is the 6th largest economy in Africa. It means we're moving from aid to trade. There's a shift, right? Even you work closely, you look at the American government, you look at the agenda is commercial diplomacy, right? For me, the pride would be the circular economy that we see now also has to move into business. It doesn't have to see that, every time there's development aid coming to see what can we do, there's training for youth and women. No, let it be a business that I wake up, I go take a loan, or I start it, I grow it, I take a loan to get trucks, to get everything so that I can be able to thrive in it. And the banks and everyone can look at it as a portfolio. See, you go to a bank, you see there is a huge money allocated to agriculture. Lakini unauliza, do you have a waste management portfolio? Unakwambia, hapo bado tunaangalia kidogo, unaweza tusaidia. And that's why people like Mtaka exist. Because the data, we can convert it into meaningful resource for even the bank to say we can design a product so that then people in the sector can also build sustainable growing businesses. Yeah.
The other day I saw, Eldoret is the latest city that we have in Kenya, and I saw them come to benchmark with Kisumu with regards to how waste can be managed successfully to carry forward, rather to promote this idea of the smart city concept. Smart city concept. How do you understand it? Just basically.
I normally say, I mean, of course, what is the word smart? Just get smart. There's always a thing about either technology, of course, but even smart in school. You're very smart. It's like an advancement. It's better than the usual, right? I think a smart city is ideally, it's for me, looking at it from technology. That's the spectrum anyway. And people normally want to see, how do we make things better?
Correlate this to waste management.
Yeah. So how do we... Waste management, it's done a very... informally. Even the trucks that the county own, right? Can they know the routes? Can they know the most efficient routes that enable them to save fuel? Can they know when a bin is full so that they can go and pick it? Can they know the amount of recovery they've done? Can they know if they've set up infrastructure where they're giving to private actors to manage? Can they know what these actors actually recovering? Can that data be used to say, we were at point A, now we are doing better? So smart city is mostly, and I may look at it from an angle of using your day-to-day data to make better decisions, using your day-to-day data to attract investment, using your day-to-day data to ensure that even if it's digital innovation or hardware or anything that you integrate, everything becomes better because it's transparent, it is open, and you can look at it real time. That's how I look at that.
And it is data that promotes traceability with regards to waste management and collection.
In fact, you keep mentioning about traceability. Traceability, in fact, what core to us is traceability. I mean, of course, you look at advanced technology like blockchain integration that then allows traceability to be sort of farmed up. But then traceability, it is the heart, because at the end of the day, people want to know, where did this come from? Weekly, if you come here and you're telling viewers and saying that, Kisumu has done A, B, C, D, and someone asks you, where is it from? The ability to be able to quote and show, that's the journey of traceability. It is traceable in its own nature. So at scale, the economy of circulating, even recycling, sometimes there is that component of once companies convert the plastic into pellets, they now resell them, right, to large producers, right? And you might say you want to even take them to the EU, you want to take them, let's say, to the EU, they'll want to know, where did this thing come from? And if you're able to tell a story and show, this thing came from Nyalenda, where West Picker came from Nyalenda A and took it to Amazing Grace, and then from Nyalenda A it went, let's say, to Maendeleo, then it went to Nairobi. That is traceability. And you can even know the brand and everything. That makes things better. And that value chain can even allow people to say, wow, because Nyalenda is doing so well, why don't we build another facility in Nyalenda? That's the power of traceability. Yeah.
Even as we move towards the end of this conversation, we can see at the University of Nairobi, where the Africa Forward Summit is is set to kick off. President William Ruto has made its way to the University of Nairobi at that venue, and that means the summit will kick start not very far from now, and once it starts, actually, we'll beam that live to you straight on your screen, so you'll be able to follow that from the comfort of your from whichever part you are in. But as we conclude this conversation on digital waste management here in Kisumu with my guest here, Benson Abila. Abila, Mtaka has been around for, you mentioned, about 5 years now, and traceability, empowering the informal waste actors is something you're big on. What's next for Mtaka?
We had this conversation with one of our board members just last week, and the truth is that I even say that sometimes when you have a good thing and when you have an innovation that you can see that in a small capacity is able to transform lives, is able to create the difference, the greatest contribution you can give to the continent is to have it at scale. That's it. If it's working, scale it. If it's doing well, scale it. So for me, I say the next steps for Mtaka is scale and growth. And I mentioned to you earlier that right now we're in over 8 counties, right? And we have all these actors, over 130 facilities that are using our technology. We want to get to 500, we want to get to 1,000 people, because at scale, we have visibility into what's really happening. Where is the effort? Where is the data? How can this data help grow? But the next thing that I'd say that we want to strengthen is the access to catalytic capital. Because I think largely when we started, we were doing a lot of trainings, then we transitioned to availing the technology platform for business management, traceability and intelligence and analytics. But then now we are looking at, even if you train someone and give them tools, there's always a component of money to start out. So we want to see, can we strengthen the catalytic circular funding that we provide to emerging enterprises, so that then we can credit score them and they can get access to bigger funding to grow. So I'd say we move from impacting 1,000 aggregators to even 10,000, 100,000. We move from having up to 10,000 waste speakers to over 50,000 waste speakers. So then if you have this conversation with me 2 or 3 years from now, I'm telling you, oh wow, I just came from Ghana, or I just came from this place, and this is what we are doing to them that is different from what we are doing to Kenya.
Yes.
Yeah.
So bringing on board many countries beyond the borders is one thing that you really envision.
If I could summarize it, because what does that mean? Because I've told you where we are headed, but what does that mean internally? Sure. So we are building the digital infrastructure of circular economy, right? Because it's informal. It's there. There's a time I was in a conference, and the guy said that India was informal for a great time, right? And they were struggling. How do we help this sector grow? But then they realized that there was just one thing that helped them grow when they introduced the concept of record keeping, where an informal business just keeps their record. And that record keeping is what helped India advance its informal sector, right? And what that made us for Mtaka is that as we build the digital infrastructure, the first layer is the record keeping. Once we have that record going in, everyone can tap into anything, market, credit, anything, even digital identities, right? Because some of the waste speakers, they work in that. I was at Dandora dump site. Someone doesn't even have an ID, right? And it's just not easy to be able to get this. So the digital infrastructure that we build will look at digital identities, we'll look at traceability, we'll look at financial inclusion, we'll look at all these things. But we then don't just build it for Mtaka. We build it in a, technology says it, in an interoperable manner, where you as Wycliffe, tomorrow, you decide, I've had so many interviews with Benson and the city manager, I want to do something in West. I think I have a digital idea. You don't start from scratch. You come and ask Mtaka, show me what you have so far. Can I plug in? There's a concept of integration. That's what we are envisioning. And you're talking to partners to be able to help us. How can we do this together? How can we do this at scale? Because one of the low-lying fruit, Wycliffe, there's something called extended producer responsibility, where producers or companies are supposed to give back money, right, to help catalyze, incentivize the recovery of materials. But they cannot do that without verified data. All right. They can't do that. And who will help them unlock this? We hope that Mtaka is able to do that at scale. Okay. Yeah.
Right. Before I give you the 1 minute to make your call to action, What do you expect to pick from this summit that is will be kicking off very shortly from the University of Nairobi?
Finally, commitments, investment. I told you, personally for me, I don't know for them, the more I'm in the sector, the more I have a bias towards investment, you know. But investment, because we have an innovation hub here, and you look at enterprises that are just starting out, and when you interact with enterprises, even at our HOK hub, you find that a lot of them are stuck at investment. So for this summit, I'd love to see, are there any commitments? If you talk about innovation, talk about investment, talk about anything, are there things that we can follow up on as a young person? Is there something that even if I got a summary of the summit for the days, I'd say, wow, I want to pursue this, I want to pursue this? Because mostly in these conferences, there's a lot of talk, a lot of learning, a lot of, we can do this. But can we crystallize it to something that I'd say, for example, if they say, we're going to give $200 million to circular economy through this and this, and then as Mtaka we say, wow, we'd like to see how we can unlock that $200 million for the entire sector, including ourselves. Yeah.
What is your call to action? Speak to our viewers. Tell them you've mentioned Taka ni pesa and my waste is my responsibility. Speak a message to them as we end this.
Taka ni pesa. And it's equivalent to, let it not be a jargon for you. You can earn money from waste. But the only easiest way to earn money from waste is that when you take it as your own responsibility. So your waste is your responsibility. The value chain is vast. Please join and partake. And how you can start? Separate your waste at source, have your dry waste and organic waste. If the actor comes to you, please ensure that you make the work easy and recovery. If you decide you want to earn from it, you can also pick it and take it to the nearest buyback center to earn from it. So I hope that when we talk about waste is wealth, all of us can be a part of it, because the dignity that comes to waste sector and the dignified green jobs that you want to create cannot be fueled without your participation. So help us so that we can do this together.
How can someone who is interested in working with you, how does it happen?
info@mtaka.co.ke. You can find me anywhere. Just reach out to us. In fact, we are open for partnerships. We are open for scaling. We're looking at different models, franchise models. We're looking at how do we get ourselves. So if you're anywhere in the continent, or continent might be large very now, but Kenya right now, I think even tomorrow we can figure something out, because we are scaling organically with regards to our own network and what we know. But if you're out there and you think there's something we can do together, because technology is powerful. The integrated circularity platform we've built that is powered by AI, blockchain, and every other thing you can think about is what will change the sector. So reach out, let's collaborate, let's partner, and let's make circular economy greater than it already is.
Before I let you go, there is something that I want you to emphasize, because you know the Environment Day is coming up next month, yes? And sustainability in waste management, that is something I want you to emphasize on even as we hand this over to the other side.
Let's move away from just waste management to sustainable waste management. Let's do things sustainably. One of the easiest ways, let's move away from you buy, you use, and you dump to circular economy, right? Where that thing can be value for the next, right? Innovation and technology you've seen is vast, and tech can do so much, from the data, from the insect technology that is being used in BSF, from the advanced hardware that can be used in managing a facility. And there are a lot of things that can be done. But you should be able to partake in that in the simplest manner possible, because some people don't even pay for waste collection. Some people still dump their waste at night. They dump it in the drains. Some people in the market still put it in the drains. The only way you partake is if you become responsible. In sustainable waste management, the difference between other types of waste management is that sustainable waste management involves everyone, everybody. So stop what you're doing, get a waste collector, separate your waste, earn from it, and help the sector grow.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I believe that has been quite an informative conversation we've had for the last 40 minutes or so with my guest here, Benson Abila, the co-founder and the CEO of Mtaka Waste Solutions, that is based here in Kisumu, but has roads in more than 8 counties now and even beyond the borders. But something that is leaving you with, your waste is your responsibility, and there is value in waste.